Hi, everybody. It's Olivia Scott, the creator of Freedom at the Mat. And I am so delighted today to be with an amazing, very special guest. Today's Free to Be is very special to me because there is a woman who is renowned internationally for her leadership in the yoga and meditation space. She is renowned and reputed across all ethnicities, across all ages, and she's really been in the game for a really long time, over the past 2 decades. So, without any further ado, I'd like to present to all of you the beautiful and amazing Miss Faith Hunter. Faith, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am wonderful. Faith, you know that I have had a love affair with you for a really long time. And that love affair is merited. It has been earned because of the work that you've done in this space. You were doing yoga before it was popular, before it was
Mhm.
trendy. And I just want to pause to say thank you for
Oh,
being that leader, being that light.
oh
Thank
my
you.
goodness. Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, listening to your introduction, and I'm like, oh yeah, it has been almost 2 decades. I'm like,
Yeah.
I guess I've been having fun, and so it doesn't feel like that.
Wonderful. Well, today I want to get into it because, again, I'm just so excited you're even here with us. So, I want to talk about your new book. You have a new book that was just launched. Is it this week?
This week, Tuesday.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, for everybody who knows, this is the week of August 16th, 2021. So, our book just launched. We're recording this in the middle of August, hoping you guys will go out and support this amazing book. It is entitled Spiritually Fly: Wisdom, Meditations, and Yoga to Elevate Your Soul. So, can you tell us a little bit about, first of all, you? I want to know
Mhm.
the faith behind the faith, and then I want to dig into this book.
Yeah.
But can you tell us, how do you look so beautiful? Let's just start with that. How do you look so beautiful? Because, I mean, I'm like, okay, she's been doing this for 2 decades. She had a career before that. Like, what are your secrets? Do you have any secrets?
You know what? I do have some secrets.
Okay.
So, well, I mean, I started meditating in my 20s, so I definitely think that has something to do with it.
Okay.
Because that's when I started practicing yoga in the early 90s. But then, just in terms of my skincare regimen, I don't use lotion or any like creamy stuff to put on my face. I use oil, and so
Mm.
that helps to balance. And then the other thing I do first thing in the morning is I splash my face with cold water. So I saw that on some YouTube video, and they said that it like helps to tighten everything up. So I've been doing that for a long time as well.
Okay.
Other
Well,
than that, I don't know. I mean, I think I have good genes as well. Like my mom's like 80. Well, she'll be 80 in December,
wow.
and yeah, she's always looked really young and little spitfire. So yeah.
Well, that's helpful to know, Faye. Thank you for sharing that tip. Now I want to go into the book
Yes.
because what I know for sure is that there's a whole bunch of rhetoric out here right now about getting the bag. I'm getting my coins. I'm getting the bag. But in your book, you
Mm,
really talk about self worth. It's a key theme in your
yeah,
book. And
yeah.
so as a beautiful woman who's a beacon, who's been on this journey longer than I have, this self care journey, can you tell me, from your opinion, what keeps us from knowing our true worth?
Oh wow. Yeah, I think, and I kind of talk about it a little bit in the book. There are so many factors that hold us back. And I explain that, from a very young age, like between the ages of 1 and 7, that's what scientists say, but I kind of think it's like from ages 0 to 10 or whatever. But we are bombarded by so many messages. We're bombarded by messages in our family, from people that are maybe not living out their fullness. And so therefore they are holding us down, even though they think that they are doing their very best to protect us. But their fears, their insecurities, their shame impacts who we are as little kids. And so then we move through life still being hit by thoughts, messages, conversations from friends, from relatives, from people that we sometimes look up to, like when we're in school age, up to our teachers. And then all of a sudden we move into we think we're adults, right, in our 20s, and then we're trying to navigate this world on our own. And then by that time, we haven't like amplified ourselves enough in
Mhm.
order to really even know who we are. So then we spend like the next 10 to 15 years clamoring, trying to figure all of that out. And even then, we're moving in and out of dysfunctional relationships of all kinds, right? Which impacts us. And then, of course, the media is hitting us. And I mean, definitely Black women, women of color are hit by it the hardest. And then finally, at some point, we wake up and go, oh God, something has to be better, because we've probably experienced so much trauma and we're holding on to so much fear and anger with ourselves that it's impossible to kind of move out of that. I mean, it's happened to me. I mean, that's kind of why I write about it and I talk about it so much, because it took me a lot to figure out my self-worth. And then I thought that I had it, then something hit and like triggered me to go back. And I'm like, I can't continue to repeat this cycle.
Well, and that was actually the next part of the question. How did you get to your true self-worth? Was there like an aha moment for anyone out there who is, hearing about wanting to find their self-worth, trying to journal to get to it? Can you share more about how, right? Like people know they need to get there, but they don't
Yeah.
know how. Was it
Yeah.
an aha moment, or was it just with wisdom and with time and journeying in it that you got?
Yeah, it actually was a really big aha moment. So I had started to work on my self-worth sometime almost before I became a yoga teacher. So, uh-oh, I'm like, phone's calling. Okay, let me cut things off. So, so basically in my 20s, I started practicing yoga, and that's when my older brother was dying from HIV. And so that was really for me just some way to get through that process.
Mm-hmm.
But then in my 30s, when I became a yoga teacher, or I was in that process of becoming a yoga teacher, I realized that I needed to let a lot of things fall off, because a year or two prior, my father had passed. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have these really powerful, male figures in my life that really supported me and were always uplifting me, that are no longer there.
Mm.
Who am I? What am I going to do? How am I going to survive with having that support from them? Like, of course, I have my younger brother, my mom, and but I mean, they were my protection. And so when I'm in my yoga teacher training, that was kind of like my first aha moment of like, okay, this practice is here to uplift you. And then I started using it as a tool to get through some of the pain, the trauma, and to start to figure out what I truly wanted. Because even stepping away from the nonprofit industry in DC, stepping away from that job, knowing that, I have degrees, I can do, whatever I want to in the world, but now I'm gonna become a yoga teacher.
Right.
What is that about? What is that about?
Absolutely.
And so then it kicked in years after that. I moved back to DC, opened up my yoga studio, and then I'm in a relationship, which I embraced. Well, actually, no, the first one was Shakti Mind Body. So that was my first one in yeah. So I had it. Not that many people know about it because it's so old. It was before, it was 2007, 2006, something like that.
Okay.
So I have that one. And I get into a relationship, which I thought was good for me at the time. But then 7 years into it, it became extremely toxic and extremely abusive. It was not a healthy situation. And I literally packed up everything, moved into a new apartment. I had no furniture, no nothing. I had my dogs, my clothes, and I always laugh about it. I had a really nice bench that I bought from Indonesia that I still have it. So I'm that thing travels with me everywhere. So I had that, and that was the aha moment. That was the really big kaboom that said, okay, you can't live this double life anymore. And what are you going to do about it? So yeah, that was the major aha moment. So there was little ones, and then the big one hit.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
So, I also want you to tell us this whole notion of spiritually fly. Can you just tell us for a moment? I want you to tell us in a second what spiritually fly sutras are from the book, and also how a sutra is different from an affirmation. because I know
Oh
you
yeah.
have it all throughout the book. But before we go there, what does it mean to actually be spiritually fly?
Yeah. So being spiritually fly is that aspect of knowing what your worth is,
Mm,
being, which is one of those sutras, being unapologetic to let yourself shine. Like I tell people, this book is not about being a yogi. Like spiritually fly has nothing to do with you being a yogi. The
okay.
yoga, the meditation, all of that, that's just tools to help you get to be your true, full, vibrant, powerful self, so that when trauma happens, when a challenging moment happens, when life kind of kicks you in the unexpected way,
Yep.
you know exactly what you need to do, because you know who you are at the core,
Yeah.
and you're able to walk through
Mm,
that fire with strength.
mm,
Because that's what happens to us, is when we don't know who we are, then that challenge happens and we cower and we go back into those old patterns. So spiritually fly is like, I know my path. I know my direction, and I'm going to walk it with strength.
beautiful. And so with that, so it's that understanding, being
Yeah.
spiritually, being able to fly
They're
with
into,
being spirit led. So it's about being spirit led.
it's a lot of spirit led, a lot of intuition, because that again is connected to that self-worth. It's like when you know who you are, you can listen to the pings, you can listen to your intuition, you'll guide it in the direction that you want to go. And yeah.
I
So
love
I
it.
mean, it started out as like just sharing those little tidbits in my first yoga studio, right? Shakti. And then now it's evolved into being who I am, my life. And I'm like, and I see my students starting to move into that path over the years. And I'm like, yes, like when they make those hard decisions, or they're like, oh my God, you know what? I am moving across country and I have no idea what I'm going to do, but something's leading me there. And I'm
Yep.
like, you know what? Go for it. Cause you know, you're following your path, and the universe is going to work it out, and you're going to know exactly what you need to do when you get there.
Yep. You'll know when you know. You'll
You
know when
know,
you're.
you know. Mm-hmm.
So with that said, so let's go into the book briefly,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
sutras. What
Sutra.
tell everybody who doesn't know, who's not a yogi, what is a sutra? And then can you tell us a couple of your spiritually fly sutras?
Sure thing. So a sutra is like a thread. So it's this little, I want to say, like these little statements that are powerful within themselves. But
Okay.
then when you link them, like you blend them and thread them together, they actually create this dynamic shift that can happen. So a lot of people know the sutras from, like, say, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And it's like, yes, the having those sutras singularly are powerful. But when you go through that whole book, right, and you read all of them, you're like, oh, okay, this is how I can guide myself. This is how I can walk and move in the world.
Yes.
And so that's kind of like what the Spiritually Fly Sutras are about. One of them is lead with love, um, stand in your truth.
Mm.
Yeah. And like the last one, which is actually my personal favorite, is to be your most divine self unapologetically, because whew, we are compounded. I'm like, we are compounded by so much, and everybody telling us how we need to be, who we need to be, how we need to do it. I mean, even, you know, and I'm so glad that I have this interview. And actually, this is my first one after the book, so I'm so glad that I'm doing it with you.
That's
And
cool.
and I'm thinking about it right now because I'm about to cry, because the thing is, even for me, being this yoga teacher, and I've been doing it for a decade, writing this book is also a shift for me, and to step out in a new way unapologetically. And I've been creeping into it as I've been writing the book, and just kind of sharing these other layers and elements of myself on social media. But now I'm taking a whole different turn, and it, again, I think that's the excitement, but then also the fear, but then knowing that I have to make this shift, and remaining, you know, I'm saying this out loud and other people will hear it, because I feel like
Absolutely.
I've only said it to my team, but really I'm making a shift to not leave yoga behind or not leave the meditation scene behind, but I am making a personal choice to step into some other lanes that are passionate for me and that are still within the wellness realm, but they're really about um, more lifestyle driven, and again using these practices as tools. And yeah.
And we are so grateful to have had you leading us with yoga and meditation for the past 20 years. And we're ready for you because now what you've done, Faith, if we just acknowledge this for a moment, you have paved the way, Faith, for
Yeah.
everybody out there doing their thing.
Yeah.
All the different yoga groups. I could get into specifics of Om Noir, Black Ocean Yoga, or whatever, but beyond that, like
Yes.
internationally, for me
Mm.
to even be here, you have always been the light that I have been drawn to. And anybody, when I would teach classes, and they would say, well, can I get classes at home? I said, well, I don't have any, but look up Faith Hunter. You will find many classes that she
Oh
does.
my God, thank you.
It's that time because you paved the way. And so now
Yeah.
we're coming up and we're finding ourselves as yoga teachers. And so
Hmm.
now it's definitely time for you to do whatever it is that your spirit is calling you to do.
Yeah.
I support you, and I'm
Thank
hoping my
you.
entire community supports you
Thank you.
um,
Thank you.
as you evolve. You know,
Yeah.
I'm a
Thank you.
huge fan of Sarah Jakes Roberts, and she talks about woman
Mm.
evolve all the time. So
Mm.
continue to evolve. So, my final question for you that I have several, but I know we have to wrap this up, is what drives you here on earth?
Ooh. Ooh. Wow. There are a couple of things that drive me. Um, One of them is God and divine energy and understanding that there is such a bigger, higher power than me, and I have to listen. And being in that place of listening guides me throughout my entire day. So that's one thing that drives me. The second thing that drives me is my family. Um, like we're very very close, and our family keeps growing and expanding, and it's I just love watching my nephews grow, and like they're now men. Like my second nephew, he graduated from high school, and I'm like, oh my God, they're grown men.
Yes.
And then I also have, my little niece that's, everybody calls her the little Faith, right? So they call her the little Faith, and she's such a sweetie, and she's like, she reminds me of myself. And so it's like being so inspired by that. And then the final thing that is just big and broader, that is always my driving force in just supports me every single day, is the full concept of love, the love I have for myself, the love I have for other people, and not being able to, or not being afraid to share that love with other people, is so important for me. Yeah, and letting that be a reflection in all my work. Like everything I do is just like coated with love, and as my team likes to say, it's coated with that golden glitter.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
It's 3 o'clock. Oh, that's my mom. I'm still in the call, baby.
Okay, it's all right. It's cool. It's here at the mat. We're cool. And so we're wrapping up. If there's one thing when you ask people, if they're like, I got to buy this book, what are they going to walk away with? If they read this book, Faith, what are people going to walk away with?
My hope is that they walk away with a greater sense of self, and they find inspiration in the stories, and knowing that they are not alone on this journey, and they are not alone in the struggles. We all have them. We're all experiencing them, and there's so much I left on the table. Like there is so much on that in that book
Okay.
that when people read it, they're gonna go, "What?" Like I know their eyes are gonna go like, "What?" Like because there's so many pieces about me that I haven't shared with people, and I knew that again, being called by spirit to say, you know what, write this down, share the fullness of your story, share the fullness of the work that you've been doing. And through that, hopefully people will be inspired to step into their fullness. Yeah.
Well, I am so grateful that you made time in your life and in your day to spend
Mm.
time at the mat And I'm just so grateful. And may God continue to bless you and pour into you and guide you and illuminate your path, because you are you're impacting, your legacy that you're leaving is potentially much bigger than you know. So
Oh my God, Olivia.
yeah, I just ask that God protect you, because you're a light. And for those that
Thank
are
you.
lights, we have to ask that they be protected, because your impact on the world and on women, on young girls, is so important. So may God continue to bless you. Thank you. And for the
Thank you.
community, I would
Mhm.
like to make sure that you guys remember to get this book. Faith has a book, I'll tell you again, and I'll put the picture up in a second. Spiritually Fly, Wisdom, Meditations, and Yoga to Elevate Your Soul. So may God be with you. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.
All right.